Hey, welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Time for Sci-Fi Distilled. Welcome back, Mary Beth, and welcome
Hello.
back, Alex.
Hello, hello. Thank you, thank you.
What are you doing on this fine February? Still February for one more day. 2 more
Better
days.
now that I'm with you, fabulous people.
Oh, and aren't you just too nice? Hey, Chris LaRoche, thanks for joining us. The Shadow has arrived. How's things
I
in
can't
Florida?
see comments while we're doing this, so if anybody
warmer.
can tell me what the comments are.
So far,
Oh,
the comment is the shadow is here.
The Shadow is here.
Yes.
So this week we are doing. This was Alex requested this, so I decided to do it, which was 2015's Disney Tomorrowland. Sorry, I had a brain hiccup there. So this starring George Clooney and Hugh Laurie. I think are probably the two most prominent people in this.
And Britt Robertson, excuse me.
Yeah, and what's her name there? The woman from the witch there from
Catherine
Agatha, whatever.
Agatha. Yeah, that's
Catherine Hahn.
She has a tiny spot, a small part, but anyway. But before we go into that, I think MB's got some news.
I have news. I have some tidbits, but then I have both Star Trek and Star Wars news that I would like to hear your thoughts on. Rizzo, let me do the little tidbits first. Last of Us Season 2 is coming April 13th. Supernatural fans. Yes. Yeah, I can't wait. Supernatural fans everywhere squealed in delight, and I was one of them today when it was announced that both
two of them. We were two of them.
And two of them, and Jared Padalecki and Rachel Collins will be joining Jensen Ackles for the 5th and final season of The Boys. No word yet on what they will play. You guys know Jensen already plays Soldier Boy. Both Supernatural and The Boys are the brainchildren of Eric Kripke, and other Supernatural alum have gone on to appear on The Boys. In sadder news, Buffy the Vampire Slayer fans were devastated to hear of the death of Michelle Trachtenberg, who played Buffy's younger sister, Dawn. Michelle was only 39 years old, and she had been having some liver issues. And in other sad news, Star Trek writer and producer Robert Orci has died. He's best known for the Kelvin timeline stuff. He was only 51. He wrote and executive produced Star Trek 2009 and Star Trek Into Darkness. All right, Rizzo, here's news that I would like to hear your opinions on. William Shatner, fans everywhere. We're so happy to see William Shatner come back as Kirk in that Otoy Roddenberry short Unification. Sort of. I mean, it was kind of only his voice, and then it was actually Sam Witwer who played him. But it's okay.
It was Shatner-esque.
It was Shatner-esque. But now there's a possibility that we might actually see him again in the role as Captain Kirk at Fan Expo Vancouver just this past Friday, February 21. So 5 days ago, they had a panel called Execute, a panel with William Shatner. And he confirmed that he had been contacted by a writer of one of the Star Trek series to maybe play the part again. We do not know who the writer is at this time, and we do not know which series at this time, although we can take an educated guess. He added he was impressed by this writer, and I will quote him directly. He says, "I've been asked to come back as Kirk so many times. If Kirk is going to come back, it has to mean something. But I was so impressed by this writer. I said, let's talk after I'm done in Vancouver. I'm awaiting a pitch, and it should come Monday or Tuesday. Rizzo, what do you think? Do we want Mr. Shatner?
Well, I mean, it would be great to see him as Kirk one more time. I think it's Strange New Worlds is the rumor I heard. I don't know. That's only a rumor that I heard that it would be Strange New Worlds. There's really only two, unless
them or Starfleet Academy.
Yeah, it's that or if it's in a television show, unless they have been talking about making that fourth Kelvin line.
He used the phrase series, like he said a series.
Yeah. So my guess is it's not going to be Academy. It's going to be Strange New Worlds. So I don't know how they're going to do it, if it's some kind of time travel thing, because obviously we've seen
They already have a Kirk on Strange New Worlds.
They have a Kirk, so is it going to be, another kind of Deadly Years sort of arrangement? That would kind of be lame. Hey, Roy, how you doing? I hope you're feeling better and you hope your mom's doing well.
Hi, Roy.
So yeah, we all want to see him back in uniform at some kind in a bridge. Now, we all know we've seen him. Either they're going to do some really serious CGI to get him into a uniform that he looks Kirk-like, or he's going to be just an old
Oh,
man.
he's just
I
gonna
don't
be a
know.
retired guy.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. I guess it all depends on how it's going to be handled. I mean,
Yeah, and what
a
the
lot
pitch
of people,
is.
a lot of people were when the last Indiana Jones came out and they dragged Harrison Ford out as a really old man and he was very frail and he kind of portrayed a frail version of himself.
And
There
you know
was
who
a
else I
lot
think of?
like
Patrick
that. They
Stewart.
didn't want to see. They didn't want to see Harrison Ford. They didn't want to see Indiana Jones in that condition as an old man.
I didn't want to see Picard that old either. Like it was.
And again,
Patrick was so much frailer.
Great
I
point.
mean,
it's a great point because in Picard, that was my thing. Is he looked so frail, especially by that third season, and it was kind of like, he didn't have the same. Well, of course, he shouldn't. He's in his 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have both seen Shatner in real life recently. Yeah, he's got a little more presence.
Let's face it. Bill doesn't look 90, almost 94.
He doesn't.
No.
He's like 75 in if you looked at him, you know what I'm saying?
He's a powerhouse.
So if anybody could pull it off, it'll be Bill. But I hope it's done in a way that doesn't diminish the character or him as an actor.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's do some Star Wars news tonight, and then we will wrap up the news segment here. The Andor trailer has come out. First thing we all noticed about the Andor trailer is the music, which is not the first time they've used a different kind of music for Star Wars, but they're using Steve Earle's 2004 song "The Revolution Starts Now" from the Grammy-winning album of the same name. Love the message in that song. Andor lead Diego Luna tells us of his character Cassian. It's someone who has to ascend. There's a huge mountain for him to climb in order to become the guy we meet in Rogue One. And so that's exactly what this season is going to do. It's 12 episodes, and they're going to release it in 4 batches. And each batch is a different year before the Battle of Yavin. So April 22, we're going to get episodes 1, 2, and 3, 4 years, BBY. April 29, episodes 4, 5, and 6, 3 years, BBY. May 6, 2 years. We're going to get 7, 8, 9, 2 years, BBY. And May 13 will be episodes 10, 11, and 12. And it will be right up to, it'll be Battle of Yavin. It'll be right up to the beginning of Rogue One. It should hook it right in nicely, we think. So
yeah, I saw in the trailer. The trailer, it looks like we saw K2SO, which means that our good friend Alan Tudyk could probably
is back.
Hopefully be doing. I saw the trailer. I also saw one of the most. Somebody actually took the music out and replaced it with with F the Police. If you guys remember that one from the early, was it the 90s? Was that Ice-T? Is that what that was? Did that one?
It fits beautifully.
Perfect. And it was like, I'm like, I'll allow it. The old from the community, I'll allow it. Because it worked for that. It was funny, but it worked. And I think a lot of people, there has been some kind of people with, what is this music? And I think that's what they're trying to poke fun at. They use this more modern music, but I think it's fine. This is a more adult oriented Star Wars. It's darker. It's definitely grittier.
Yeah. This is adult.
I think it totally fits to not make it, the typical fanfare music.
Yeah, just the one occasion they used Peter Schilling's Major Tom coming home for the kids pirate show that they just. What was the name of the pirate show? Yeah, whatever. Anyway.
Oh,
all right. Finally tonight. What?
I forgot the name of the show too. What the hell?
What was the name of the pirates?
No, something what the
Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew. Sorry, I had to think of it. Okay. Other news in other Star Wars news tonight, according to a bombshell new report, Kathleen Kennedy intends to retire from her role as Lucasfilm president at the end of 2025, bringing an end.
We're all very sad about it, clearly.
An end to what's proven to be a divisive and often chaotic tenure. She initially had box office success with The Force Awakens, which no matter what you think about The Force Awakens, the thing grossed $200 billion worldwide, so it's technically a success. But then she fell from fan favor. Trouble started when, if you guys remember during Solo, a Star Wars story, the 2 filmmakers, they dropped out, and Ron Howard came in.
Ron Howard had to come in and fix it, yeah.
And it just kind of went down from there. And then she started saying, all these people are going to make these movies. Ryan Johnson's going to make a movie. D.B. Binoff and David Weiss are going to make a movie. Patty Jenkins is going to make a movie. and then they never came to pass.
Yeah.
So Kennedy became known as someone who made promises and never fulfilled them. So she is wrapping it up at Star Wars. What do you think, Rizzo? Tell me all about it.
I'm excited. I've been hoping for this for a long time. We'll see who replaces her.
Who's going to take over from
No,
her.
they have not said. I doubt it'll be Fellini, only because like things like Ahsoka didn't go well, and that was kind of his project. So, I mean, I'd love to see Favreau step into that role, but I think it's not his thing. I think he'd rather be directing and doing, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I think they're a little more hands-on.
You hit on something. There's the guy that does YouTube. I think he's called The Critical Drinker.
Yes.
He has a really funny. Usually they're pretty satirical, and he did a whole thing on this particular topic. And basically, you struck on, I think, the really main point there that, she had this habit of releasing things to the public long before they were even thought out. The Force Awakens, yes, it was, the initial movie, and I think there were some good parts to it, certainly, and I think a lot of people were kind of hungry for some new Star Wars movies. But the problem was they went into it with no plan where they were going with it.
More on that
Yeah.
More on that point is they seem to have had a different plan each installment. It was like when you got to the next installment, well, that person was pissed off about the previous installment, so they just wrecked everything. Yeah. And then they just domino effect.
Well, it clearly was like, and especially the second one, I think, was the biggest disaster in the sense that, you killed off all these main characters and you got, we've talked about this. It's just, the problem is she was at the helm of that mess, and so you can't say, well, she's just at the top, but she authorized it.
It's like with Kevin Feige and Marvel, like he knew where he was going, he knew what he wanted, and he brought him there, and it was fabulous. You got to have a really clear vision.
Hey, Alex McDonald, how are you? Thanks for joining. Jeff, thanks. Sorry, I just like to give some shout outs when we can.
Yep.
That's fair. Like I said, I can't see the comments. So if you guys see comments, call them out and I'll respond at that point.
Everybody's saying hi so far.
Yeah, just people saying
But it's funny that we're talking about Star Wars and A Force Awakens, because that does actually bring us into the movie that we're talking about tonight.
Yeah,
the director.
Yes.
Yeah, the director of Tomorrowland is Brad Bird. If that name is familiar to you, you probably are a fan of The Simpsons, first and foremost. Otherwise, there are a few other projects that actually get references in this film that I'm sure we'll talk about. Yes, exactly. Incredibles, Iron Giant, and we'll see images of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting, though, that he turned Star Wars down for this.
He did, yeah.
I actually, as an artist, I have to agree with his reasoning, given that he had said it's so rare to find a project so, what was the term that he used? Original. Original concept, an original idea with such a high budget to achieve it. With Star Wars, he's fully constrained by the fandom and everything else that goes on with Star Wars. There's not a lot of creative liberties that he can take, right? So as we've seen, I'm sure he's probably thanking his lucky stars he wasn't involved with Star Wars.
You never know. Maybe he would have made a better Star Wars than JJ.
He might.
Maybe, because I was noticing...
Yeah,
I was noticing that in the introduction of the futuristic land, it felt very like prequel reminiscent. Like I could see that being related to Star Wars.
Feel to it. I could see.
Before we dive in too deeply, and we are going to dive in, Rizzo, do we have a drink for tonight's?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
It's called Tomorrowland. How about that? Amazing what I can find. So we got vodka and cucumber and some cane sugar and honey
and honey.
Oh, sweet.
And sugar syrup. Yeah. Oh my Lord!
It's mostly vodka. That's what you
got. It's sugar.
I had to convert this. I had a little trouble. I was kind of trying to convert this to ounces from kiloliters centiliters. Sorry. And so it doesn't translate over too accurately. So these are rough. So play with it if you decide to make it. Is my point. But you can get there. The website's there if you want to go directly and see it in centiliters. So I don't know. That was weird. I've never seen a drink. It's usually milliliters. I've never seen one in centiliters.
What country?
Yeah, really.
It was weird measurement for that one.
So anyway, Alex, you were just talking about how
Brad Bird and the fact that he denied Star Wars for this. Yeah.
So I didn't see this in the theater. I remember I think I watched it on HBO or something at the time when it came out. This was 2015. Um,
I didn't know you had seen it previously. That's pretty
I
cool.
had seen it. Yep, I had seen it. I was really excited when I saw the previews for it, the trailers. I have to be honest though, it fell kind of flat for me.
Yeah,
It
I
did
hear
the
a
first
butt
time
coming.
I watched it, and this recent I just watched it yesterday, and I was like, what I felt what I felt was it. I think it had so much potential, and I think they missed the mark.
What do
And
you feel missed the mark?
okay, so
The
I'm
third
looking at
act.
this is clearly made for kids. Okay, it's a kind of a children's movie.
With
And
accessibility to adults,
I'm
but of
looking at this
course.
maybe because I was a kid. Because this is those that don't know, this is basically based on Tomorrowland, which is a park at Disney World. That basically came from the 1964 World's Fair in New York. So that's where they got the idea for Tomorrowland, which eventually became, which would have been Epcot originally, which eventually
Yeah.
they did build Epcot, but that's what Tomorrowland kind of was coming from. And it was supposed to showcase off what the future might be, very Jetsons like, flying cars and things and all kinds of cool stuff. So as a kid, somebody who went to Disney in the 70s, and they only had back then, there were no other parks. There was just the world, what do they call it? That park, the main park.
Yeah, Disneyland, Disney World.
Yeah, Disney World, but then Disney World has the different parks and anyway, you know what I'm talking about. It has Tomorrowland
like
is part of that park. I don't know why
Adventureland,
I'm
like all
having
the
a brain.
different Safari Land,
Nobody
like it
knows
had
what I'm
different
talking about.
areas. I know what you
Magic
mean.
Kingdom. The Magic Kingdom is what I'm talking about. There was only the Magic Kingdom, which included Tomorrowland was part of that. And as a kid about third grade, so I was like what 10 or something like that. Not even, probably like 8.
8, yeah.
Tomorrowland was the coolest thing for me. I mean, as you know, yeah, it was Tom Sawyer's Island and the haunted house and all that stuff was neat. But you had Space Mountain just opened, which terrified the crap out of me because I was only 8 years old. I didn't know it was a roller coaster until I got on the thing.
Which you can see in the distance in Tomorrowland, the movie,
right,
which is super fun.
Right, because that was a very iconic building in that. But you had all these other cool rides that would take you through and show you all this cool stuff that the future is going to hold. So I was as watching this, I'm trying to be that 8-year-old kid again, and I'm like, and we see that part in the beginning where she had, I'm like, I don't know why they kept sticking whenever you go into this virtual world from the touching the pin, you're in like a wheat field, and it's the Tomorrowland's like a mile away. I don't know why you wouldn't just drop them in the middle of the city, but whatever. Yeah, and it wouldn't make any sense because you'd untouch the pin and then drive a mile and touch the pin, but now you're in the city. But like, how did the pin know that? Anyway.
No, I agree. That was one of my biggest grievances with it as well.
Anyway, but you got to see the city, and it was really cool, right? We got to see people flying and going into space and
those swimming pools. Let's pay recognition to the swimming pools. That's crazy.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. You saw all this cool stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, that's gone. And then the next time you see it, it's trashed.
It's gone.
But that's the message of the movie. That's the point.
But I don't see, here's the thing. I think that's where they failed. There shouldn't have been a message to the movie. The movie should have been about the wonder of what that place was and what it could be. And that I understand what there was a whole thing about humans being destructive and not taking care of the planet. They were trying to shove that message in there. But I think that's where the fail was. I said, I want to see Tomorrowland. I want to live in the Tomorrowland that we saw in the demo, so to speak. And that's where I think most of the movie should have taken place. Just whatever the story was, the kid went there, which is the fantasy of every kid of that age, to go to, imagine going to this place, flying around, doing all these things. It's like walking in, all of a sudden you're transported onto the bridge of the Enterprise. You know what I'm saying? And you get to do, it's like, you don't want to see the Enterprise falling apart. You know what I'm saying? We don't want that message. So that's where I think they missed the mark. I think they should have, and really, I think you said earlier, Mary Beth, we only saw Tomorrowland for like 20 minutes out of a 2-hour movie. It wasn't even very long. So I think that's where the fail was. I think it was a good shot. I mean, you got George Clooney, the guy, he's great at everything he does pretty much.
Who got paid $25 million to do this movie, which is the highest salary he's ever earned.
And this was a huge flop. I hate to say it for Disney. They lost their shirt on it.
Yeah.
I feel like I hear what you're saying, and I feel like it flopped because most people missed the point of it and wanted exactly like you said. They want the Tomorrowland and whatnot, but we have movies like that. I don't know. I enjoy the messaging of this one. I enjoy the accessibility of this one. The fact that this movie can open up that conversation between kids and parents. I think it's super important to have that discussion really early on. Like, even just for my generation, we didn't start talking about, being conscious, environmentally friendly and all that stuff until grade 7, grade 8. And it's too late. I think it's nice that we have a bit of an earlier entrance point with somebody like Britt Robertson, who can kind of grab the attention of kids. And then on the other hand, we have George Clooney and Hugh Laurie, who can grab the attention of the parents, of the adults. And either way, you can kind of have that conversation. I enjoy the commentary of this movie of the cynical adult who says, oh, we've done too much, we've ruined too much, there's no hope, we can't do anything. And then you have that super overexcited child who doesn't have the life experience to really know how to smoothly navigate a situation like that, that's just trying to be heard. I really enjoy that part of the movie.
Those are all fair points. And again, not disagreeing with that. I mean, I think they could have done it. I think they could have done with the message in a way rather than having Tomorrowland literally causing the world to be what it is, because that's what the implication was, that the big eyeball thing was basically forcing the signal out to everybody subconsciously that there is no hope, that you're all going to, and there's no hope for the world. So you might as well just do whatever you want and be selfish and whatever. Because it's going to end in nuclear annihilation, apparently in 59 days or whatever. What I think might have been the better track to go is, yes, the world is like that, but Tomorrowland has been operating since the 60s or whatever in this other universe, because it's like a separate dimension. And they come and they basically reveal themselves to the world or something like that. And they save the planet. I know that.
Well, what you're talking about was supposed to be the second installment of this film, but like you said, it was unfortunately a flop for Disney. So we never really got to see that second phase.
The problem with their message,
that would have been it. I guess I was looking at this strictly as an entertainment from a child's perspective, and which is essentially what I am anyway. And I guess it just didn't have any magic for me. That's what I think was missing. The magic wasn't there. The magic was there in that one part. And I was like, this is really cool. And then it's gone. It was like ripped away from, and you never got it back.
The problem with their message, or at least the problem with the Hugh Laurie. Hugh Laurie. Hugh Laurie is he completely lacked altruism, which is exactly what a place like Tomorrowland would 1000% need. Like he wasn't going to share it with everybody else because they were going to come in and mess up his perfect little. But if you're going to really build a place like that and you're going to recruit people, these are people that need to be phenomenally altruistic.
Right. That's a good point. He really wasn't a dreamer or a visionary.
He was not anything that they were recruiting.
He was a bureaucrat in a lot.
Yeah.
Which is never.
But I mean, that's kind of the point there too, wouldn't it be? Because like people do that. They build things with the best of intentions, but then they spend too long with it. They get protective of it. They close it up. They don't let you touch it. They don't let you see it. So he needed to be removed so that somebody who was actually looking at the bigger picture could come in, which I'm sorry to say, but that's a message we freaking need right now.
I mean, I agree. Yeah. He was, to put a fine point, he was a dick from the beginning, and he was even a bigger dick towards the end when he's like, look, you're here. You think he would have said, you can stay even though the world's going to end. We're not going to throw you back knowing you're going to die in 50 days. You know what I'm saying? I always thought, I'm like, why does he just let him stay at this point? What's the point? What's the harm?
The problem with his particular kind of bad guy is it's been done. It's been done to death. So you have this incredibly creative and frankly very different movie. The art department knocked it out the park. Just phenomenally. Building. And then you get to the end and you've got George and Hugh monologuing at each other, and you've heard it all before. You've seen it already in 17 other movies. That's where they fell down. Like awesome,
Maybe.
awesome.
I mean, they also called themselves out for repeating their messages. Like Hugh Laurie at the end goes as far as to say, "We tried to warn the world. We tried to give them that message. We warned the Titanic about the iceberg, and they steered straight for it anyways. Yes, we've heard this message before. It was ineffectual." And I love that commentary at the end of the
Well, we
movie.
see that, and that's just reality, because we keep seeing that in real life today. I mean, people have been pointing out that the Titanic is headed for the iceberg, and they keep steering right towards it. No question about it. That's just human stupidity. And it's human selfishness is what it comes down to, is because nobody gives a crap about anybody else unless it affects them.
Them directly, yep.
So,
and it's sadly, I know not everybody's like that, but the majority of people, unfortunately, are like that, whether they are aware of it or not.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part of it. So yes, you're right. He is kind of the embodiment of that. But I guess if that's the message they wanted, then that was successful in that. I just think that was the poor choice, or at least a bad way to go about it. But you're right, Mary Beth. It wasn't even that. I think the art department. You're right. The art department, the Tomorrowland, when it was in its heyday, was awesome. I mean, that's what as a kid, that's what, I remember it as a kid. I used to draw what used to look like the Jetsons, everybody's house was on a spire.
Yeah, it's got that 50s
all
retro
up off the ground and
future
high. For some reason, we always think a futuristic building should be off the ground for some reason, way up high. And
this is why I think Brad Bird is thanking his lucky stars he didn't do Star Wars.
the ground is flooded because we've melted all the.
Where we saw something very similar, you're talking about it, was in Star Trek, the last one, Beyond, when they went to the Yorktown. Remember the giant space station that was way beyond the technology that should have been for that era, and and it was kind of like Tomorrowland. It's like that, where it was just this beyond, totally off the rails technology, where people would just like walk into what looked like a phone booth, and it was a transporter to go wherever they wanted to go. There was no guy, no Scotty running it. You know what I'm saying? It was just like a kiosk. You popped, you're gone. I mean, that's what bothered me about that movie, was I thought, okay, we took the technology that was pretty advanced and then just went off the scale with it. It was kind of ridiculous. But
let's talk about the movie's strengths, because it does have a lot of strengths. Like I said, the art department, I mean, the weapons were so cool, that everything looked so cool. They did an amazing job. The other thing is the action sequences. The action sequence in the toy store with Catherine Hahn and Keegan-Michael Key, that was cool. Like George
that Clooney, was so funny.
Cool.
What was funny about that?
Yeah.
I kept cringing every time they destroyed something cool in that story.
Oh my god! Yeah,
right? Yes. Nerds cry everywhere when this movie plays.
Star Wars stuff
they went in hot and heavy with the Star Wars,
throwing R2D2 at people.
I was so mad at the R2D2 abuse. That's not okay.
The whole store was cool. Don't wreck the store.
Yeah, everything in the store.
Did we all catch Robbie from Forbidden Planet?
Saw Robbie. He was there.
Yeah.
There was a place in Orlando. I don't know if it's still there, and I can't even remember the name of it.
Well, the name of this store was Blast from the Past, which is the same name of the store that Marty goes into in Back to the Future 2.
Oh, I did not know that. But there was a sci-fi collectible store in Orlando back in the 90s. I don't know if it's still there, but it was kind of like that. It was just packed with stuff.
With glorious,
and it was just memories. I remember like we were at Disney, and like my brother like we purposely, me and him, like rented a car just to go there. Well, no, we didn't have to, because I had a car. That's right. So we got my car, and we went over there outside the park. Usually when you go to Disney, you're like in Disney, you never leave Disney. It's like you're there. But yeah, because it was it's in Kissimmee over on International Drive. I can't remember the name of the place, but I remember I went there when I lived down there. I would drive out there just because it was the coolest place on the planet. Sorry, sidebar. Anyway, that was a cool scene. The androids chasing them, of course, was pretty cool.
What was it called again, Rizzo?
I don't remember the name of the place.
Well, your options are Gods and Monsters, the Acme Superstore, Papa's.
I don't think it probably doesn't exist anymore.
Echo-based collectibles,
No,
and the toy
she's looking
company.
it up.
Because I have to.
I don't remember what it was called. Honestly, I would have to really rack my brain. It was on International Drive. I think it was in Kissimmee, technically.
Okay. Oh, Kissimmee. Well,
International Drive is where all the other hotels that are not Disney and restaurants and like all the other places that were the cheaper places to go. So to stay if you couldn't stay in Disney. Anyway,
well, to bring us back on track, I know that you two are not a huge fan of the messaging of this film, whereas I am. I just want to make a quick case for that. What I love about the way that they've narrated the whole film is the kind of commentary that as long as we all come together and find a way to do that, we can still change things. We can still improve things. Like, in the beginning, we go from George's narration and Frank's narration, and we see little Frank in Tomorrowland kind of jetpacking around. Not only do we get a layout of Tomorrowland, we also get a very powerful imagery of the fearlessness within children, the fearlessness to reach out for what doesn't exist yet, the power to make it themselves, which is kind of a funny comparison to when Casey takes over the narration, because we see her in a snapshot of her as a kid to confirm that she was just as hopeful as Frank was. She was right there with him. And then we see the know-it-all and the rebellion of the teenagehood that Casey kind of showcases throughout the film. I just find that all three narration styles kind of comes back to bring everybody together, to say no matter what stage you are in life, it's never too late. No matter what stage we are and how bad it gets, it's never too late. There's something we can do. We just need to do it together. I'm a big softie. I love that kind of messaging.
that must be a generational thing.
I think it's a Canadian thing.
Because that was one of that I said we'd talk about its strengths, but we're back because that was actually something that's pointed out as being a flaw of the film. The fact that it has 3 starts. Americans don't have the patience for 3 starts. We want to hit the ground running and go.
Yeah.
Fair. Especially for a Disney movie, you're kind of looking for quick, easy, accessible. I mean, it makes sense for like a Tomorrowland thing. You're not really looking for a huge commentary about that in the world.
You really have to look at the people go to these movies for entertainment. If there's a message in there that works and they get it, that's a bonus. But I think from a film, from a studio's point of view, they're always looking at one thing. They want to make money on it.
Money.
They're not really caring about the message. That might be the director or whatever.
Yeah, messaging is
thing.
But the writers, the actors, the whole creative team. Yep.
And I think, a lot of times, like I go to the movies, and I've said this before, and maybe I'm very shallow or whatever, but if I go to movies, I just want to be entertained. Don't want a message. I just want to be entertained for 2 hours. You know what I'm saying?
As a Star Trek fan, that's really the phrase you're going to go with? Seriously?
Star Trek, but I watched Star Trek as a kid. I didn't get a lot of what they were trying to say.
Yeah, a lot of the preaching
until I got older. Because the shows were still entertaining.
I mean, maybe consciously, but it had to have subconsciously been there. I mean,
we all got the black and the white guy. Like that was so obvious. Even a 5-year-old figured that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of the other ones were much deeper. And as a kid watching it, all I wanted to see was the Enterprise shooting things, people run around, Kirk with the women. That was what you wanted to see. And that's what they gave you. But there was messages usually buried in there. Go ahead. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's a lot to ask, but I'm like, that's what makes money is people are entertained. Hey, did you see that movie? That was awesome.
Like
I really had a great time.
Star Wars is a great example of the original Star Wars. It was fun.
But I mean,
Star Wars has great messaging in it too.
The Matrix was trying to make a point, but we all were like, the Matrix was like the coolest thing in 1999 or 98, whenever it came out, because for the effects were awesome, but it was just it was visually, it was a good story. It kept you engaged. And I think that's what is missing. It's like you can have your message, but you got to entertain the people first.
Yeah.
I think that's where we disagree. I do find this movie is very entertaining in between the messages.
It wasn't horrible. I just think they missed a huge opportunity with it.
That's fair.
Yeah,
it's not like I hate it.
No, we don't hate it. We just think it could have been, the message should have been delivered a little bit different. It suddenly occurred to me as we were talking about this that like when we were kids, like nowadays I watch something and then I will go to YouTube, especially if it's Marvel or any of the stuff that we watch. I'll go to YouTube and I'll look for New Rock Stars, Emergency Awesome, Screen Crush, Heavy Spoilers. That's my 4 go-to guys. Those guys. And they break stuff down and explain, this is what this is and this is what this means. And here's the symbolism here and here's the symbology and this is what they were doing here. And that I didn't have that when I was a kid. I had no one to break down and explain to me that when the actor's face is half in shadow, that means he's being duplicitous. I didn't know that. I just was like watching a show. So we weren't analyzing things and thinking heavy, deep thoughts about what we were watching. We were just, like Rizzo said, we just wanted to be entertained. So that meant the message needed to be a little more superficial in order for it to kind of get into our brains, you know?
Yeah, I'm honestly, like, you know, as a kid, you know, I was a Star Trek fan as a kid, but I wasn't really a big Star Trek fan until like the 80s, till like Wrath of Khan era. That's when I really kind of came back to it. I was kind of brought up on it because that's what was on TV.
That's what was on.
We didn't have 250 channels in streaming.
It was a rerun every night.
You had 5-6 channels if you were lucky, and that what was on. So it was that and Lost in Space. You know, for us, the channel 11 WPIX.
I watched the Monkeys and Banana Splits every day after school.
All those old 50 shows that got rerun. And they seemed old.
When we were all
sitting
around at the set tour and talking, and we're all like,
they were all. The funny thing is, they were all.
It was the only thing on.
They were all less than 10 years old then, and they seemed like they were ancient watching like the Batman. I'm like, when was this actually on TV? Like,
yeah.
You know, like you couldn't. It was like, but it was like 5 years ago. But
yeah, it was relatively recent.
Yeah. So it didn't. It just always seemed like Star Trek was on like a million years ago, even back in the 70s. Like it was actually on TV. So you know, I guess it's true. I guess our Gen X people, we've always been considered the apathetic generation. So
I mean, there are filmmakers in your generation too. I don't know that I would use a paintbrush that wide.
Well, I mean, you know, that's always been the joke.
Yeah, you're right, Alex. You're right. It just when we look back at what we watched, like, come on, we grew up on crap. This is the crap we watched. The Dukes of Hazzard. Nothing heavy duty going on there.
No, nothing heavy duty there.
Wonder Woman, the old one with Linda Carter. The Incredible Hulk. Bobby Vinton, if you're from New England and you know what that is. Donnie Marie.
Man.
There was nothing on it. If you watch this stuff now, Alex, it's a dearth. It's a veritable desert of like messaging and like, you know, there's nothing.
It's all very superficial.
It's all very superficial.
But it was also, you have to remember, all that was broadcast.
Sorry, Chris.
So there was no streaming service. HBO was like, I remember like in the 70s or late 70s when like people would have HBO. Because we never had cable until like the 80s. It wasn't even available to where I lived till like the 80s. So cable TV was. So I remember going over somebody's house, and there was a grandparent's house, and they had cable TV, and they had HBO. Oh my God! We were like, I'm like, they have movies on here. There's no commercials.
Real movie.
Did they still have the late night not for kids segment back then? No.
Yeah. Well, you.
It was a big deal. I remember getting invited over the neighbors because they had it, and they were going to show like Muppet Christmas Carol or something.
Yeah, you'd have.
Oh my God! I can only hear one of you at a time.
Well, you asked about the late night stuff, so I was going to tell you what we used to do as kids and watch it all fuzzy and wavy. If you didn't pay for it, it was like not so. But it wasn't like it just was off. It was there, but so you could hear it. Like, but it would be all fuzzy and wavy. It was kind of hard to describe.
Oh, there was a lot of things we used to watch like that.
Yeah. So that was only if you had cable, though. You had to have cable for that.
You know what? We need to take Alex on a little tour of what we were brought up on, and she's going to wonder how we turned out to be halfway decent human beings. Maybe we didn't. It's true. Because there was just nothing. I mean, there was just no.
Well, we only had television, and we had to watch it. We had to watch it when it was on, which was another important thing. We couldn't watch it. Oh, I wasn't around for that, so I'm going to watch it tomorrow on the rerunners streaming. You had to wait. If you missed the first one, you had to wait till the summer and hope you caught it in the rerun.
Maybe there's a rerun. Yeah.
Hey, that's more of a modern thing than you think. I know that one. I lived through my Buffy fandom for that.
Everything's
My
on
dad had to
streaming,
sleep
though.
outside if we missed a new episode of Buffy. My mom
We
would
didn't
just
even
flip.
have back in the 70s. Nobody had like VHS machines, even, so you couldn't even record it. And that's like, or go rent it, or buy it. You know what I'm saying? You missed it. It was gone. That was it. It was gone.
And
I
some of
mean,
that stuff
Yeah.
never got re-aired again, ever.
Yeah, it never got re-aired. So, yeah, it was funny.
Doctor Who was a big thing for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, see, now
What else
Doctor
on
Who didn't
PBS?
come to the States till the mid 70s. I want to say PBS picked it up, started putting it on 11 o'clock at night. So I wasn't watching that till I was a teenager. You know, and that's certainly where I watched my first Doctor Who was on PBS at 11 o'clock at night. And you were hoping they weren't pledge driving then. You had to wait for them to finish their crap before you got to the show.
People are wondering, what does all this got to do with Tomorrowland? Well, it's a generational thing. Rizzo and I are like, we don't, the message isn't hitting. And you're like, the message is fabulous. And we're like, it's because we're used to Dukes of Hazzard going, yeehaw.
Yeah.
And boys,
and you know, as a kid, it was
that
late 70s. So I was about 10, 12 years old. I love Dukes of Hazzard. Now, granted, we know that the General Lee is a very racist vehicle, but
I think as well, like I'm also a film student, right? So I was taught all the lenses. I was taught how to go through things with movies. And I'm at the point now where I can't turn that off. So if I watch a movie, there's like 10% of me that's just, you know, having a good time and enjoying the pretty, colorful things on screen. And then I have 10% of me that's looking at the camera direction, 10% looking at the script, 10% looking at the actors. Like
I worked in production for decades. So, I mean, you're preaching to the choir with that. I look at everything that way. And
so how do you turn that off? I can't do that.
You know how I turn it off is when the actual movie draws me into itself and I'm actually in the movie.
Yeah, you're so caught up with what's going on.
I'm not bored. I'm not looking at my watch. Yeah, I'll still pick out errors, mistakes. That should have been, you know, that's missing a little. But to me,
what about positive things, Rizzo? Positive. I know you're not used to that, saying, but like,
but I'm saying if the movie's done right, I'm enjoying it. That is the positive thing, because that's what the stuff is there for. It's to entertain us, not to teach us.
Yeah.
No, that's wrong. Like, I'm sorry, that's just not.
If you want to watch, if you want to be taught, you watch Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers, and if you want to be entertained, you watch everything else that's on. That's it.
You gotta remember, it's funny because I used to have interns when I actually worked for a public. I worked for public broadcasting for a while, but one of my first jobs was at a community access TV. I was actually working for a company that was basically, and we used to get interns and stuff. And we had one girl, and she was kind of well, don't you think you need to improve television so that it's better for the society? And me and the other guy were very practical. We're like, no. I mean, RCA built the television to make money. It was not ever meant to be an altruistic messaging system. It was make money. So the only thing that makes money is when you entertain the masses. So
you're not going far back enough, though. That's not where the origin of telling stories, of having these kind of ways about giving messaging and kind of thing, like it came from a sense of community. This is how we can entertain you, but also kind of explain how we're feeling in a way that's not having you look at your watch. And it sucks that kind of was the effect of this film. But like, even with something like Star Wars, I am now fully in love with it. And even still, every time I watch it, I'm looking at every lens. I don't know. I just can't shut the brain off.
Well, you really should try, because I think you're actually, honestly, I think you're missing out on that wonder of the films.
I can do both. I can do all at the same time.
No, you can't.
I don't know if you can, because I think if it's done right, you're not paying attention to that. Maybe on the second run or the third viewing of it. But on the original thing, if I'm sitting in a theater like Star Wars, my head just went. Granted, I was 10 when Star Wars came out, so I sat in that theater, and I know we've had this conversation, and the head went boom.
All our heads.
Yeah, I mean, at 10 years old, that makes sense.
Like it.
Actually, adult heads were booming too at that.
And a lot of it, but that's the amazing thing. Because why? Because there was no the message. What, good against evil? Everybody knows that wasn't a very big. If that was the message, I mean, it was. Yeah, we know this. But it was just the entertainment factor. People were just drawn into the story shoom, and
There
that's
was more than just good versus evil. There was hope and family. There was messaging and always keeping hope, no matter how bad the
later.
situation gets.
The initial movie was pretty much the bad guys against the good guys. The bad
Okay,
guys
the
were in
first
white.
movie, yes, you have to set up a premise. You have to set up a foundation before you start
Lucas had
reaching
no
out to
idea
other
that there would ever be
things.
a second or third movie. So, I mean, he was building, but you know, the imagery was there. The bad guys were in white, you know, and the
Yeah,
main
it's
bad guy was
true.
black. I mean, those were very obvious clues that they were trying to, maybe that the good guys aren't always wearing white, because that goes back to like, the Lone Ranger and that kind of thing, and that he always had the princes and stuff, and back in those stories were always in white, you know what I'm saying? So they were trying
Oh,
to
that goes back to
stir that up.
silent films. Like,
Yeah. So they're trying to change that up a little bit. But Star Wars was just a formula of many things that, again, we've talked about it. And I know I sound gatekeeping when I do this, but unless you were there, you can't explain it. You can't explain it. You can't. So
sorry, what?
yes, I know. I'm aware of my gatekeepingness on this particular topic.
I just got chastised via private messaging to stop ganging up on Alex.
Oh, we're not ganging up. We're discussing.
I can defend myself. I think I'm doing pretty good.
Up there, Alex, who's on your side and thinks
I
we're
mean,
being
I don't want to try. I don't want to make it feel like we just had you do this movie so that we could beat the crap out
No,
of it.
we're not. Alex, we would like to hear more about what I am fascinated in the differences in how we see things. But for the moment, tell us more. Tell us more about what you like about this movie.
Okay. One thing, what can I say? I started watching this movie because of Britt Robertson, who plays Casey. She was an underdog millennial actress that I think a lot of us millennials that grew up on the CW were all very familiar with Britt Robertson. So I was very excited for her to have this opportunity to be up against such big names like George Clooney and Hugh Laurie. I wish the movie had performed better, if only just for her and her experience. I think she really deserves the credit. But beyond that, I got introduced to Raffi.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember her last name, but she plays the audio animatronic Athena, and I love the way that she portrays her relationship with Frank, both as the little jetpack boy and as George Clooney. On the surface, seeing her with George Clooney, obviously that can give you some different impressions, but with the story in mind, with the context in mind that they've had 25 years of history, she really does look at him as a long lost lover, as much as she said in the end, I don't have the capacity to feel love. She definitely watches Frank with that kind of care when they get in that little dimensional spaceship, whatever you want to call that, from the Eiffel Tower. She's watching every single move he makes and is making sure that he's okay. He's constantly looking at her, or rather, he's constantly making himself look very betrayed and hurt whenever he knows that she's looking at him. And it just very much felt like looking at two old flames who lost touch kind of figure out how to be sort of like platonic and good, not platonic, but how to rekindle a friendship there.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Her little story at the end about her little thing about, you couldn't make me smile. And then that little thing made it pretty clear that there was definitely something more there. And that was really nicely played by both of them, because it could have been awkward as hell, because Raffi was how old when she did this thing?
14.
14. And George was George. So, but no, beautifully done by both of them. Well,
beautifully acted,
very innocent,
well written, well
handled.
Handled.
Connection, but it was
like you could tell that there was a love there. Like even just leaving alone whether it was platonic or not. I mean, they were kids when they met. This is like a little kid relationship, right? Like, regardless of what kind of love it was, it's clear that there was a love there. And what I really love about her end speech, like you were saying, Mary Beth, is that when she was talking about, I can't feel anger, I can't feel disappointment or love. She also says that she can't come up with ideas. And then in the end, she came up with an idea. And they both kind of look at each other and they go, what do you know? And I feel like that was their way of saying I love you. And I thought that was beautifully done. And at 14 years old, you have that kind of a range, that kind of understanding of your character and where it's supposed to come from and what your relation is supposed to be to these people. That's so incredible. And I love that the messaging, for me anyway, seems to be, let's not dismiss kids so quick. Let's hear them out on their ideas. Let's figure this all out together. And here you have a 14-year-old who could blow 40-year-old performances out of the water. I just think that was beautifully casted and beautifully done. It's easily one of my favorite parts about the movie. The big firework at the end for me, because I am a cynical person, is Hugh Laurie saying, we warned you about this. We literally warned you about the iceberg and you steered right for it. And I just kind of love that, like, yeah, it's in your face. We all did this to ourselves. We all did this to each other. And I kind of agree with that. And I like seeing more positive people, even more positive than me, Rizzo. I know you like to say I'm a little cheerleader sometimes, but like,
I'm accused of things.
Accused. Referencing past events, I think.
Okay.
But like, I like seeing people who are even more positive than I am, more hopeful, striving for that. And I love seeing people get inspired by that message. I think the difference between our opinions about the movie really just kind of goes to my having seen this with a couple of my friends, them kind of getting that message, that inspiration, and going on to do bigger things for themselves. And I love it when a piece of art, whether that's a book, a painting, a movie, that's what art is there for. It's meant to inspire. It's meant to entertain. It's meant to get a reaction out of you, whatever that may be. So when I see a reaction being had, I know that it's a good thing. That's what I love about this movie.
Fair. Good.
Fair enough.
Good analysis. Yeah. I mean, we are reacting to.
I mean, the message
Just
that they
the way
were
you
is
wanted us
not.
to.
I mean, the message is certainly one that we've seen before. I mean, and we know that, and we see it now. You know, people with the leopards eating their face. You know, kind of. If you haven't heard that analogy,
Yeah.
which is coming to pass, and you know that it's amazing how people will do things that are in direct competition with their best interests.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And not even realizing what they're doing. And because unfortunately we live in our own little silos, we only see what we see in front of us. And unfortunately right now we're a bunch of mushrooms most of the time because we're just kept in the dark and fed shit all day.
Well, that's exactly it. Hugh Laurie's character even says, like, the problem with trying to warn people about years in the future is that problem demands nothing from you today.
Yeah.
So what do you do tomorrow that makes it better? When you're worried about so many years in the future, it's kind of hard to think about what's the one step I can take towards that goal instead of immediately trying to complete it and then immediately getting defeated when it's not easy to fix.
So it's not even that. I think it's even simpler. I think it's the fact that I don't even want to bother. You're right. That's somebody else's going to be somebody else's problem. So I'm not going to bother to not eat that cheeseburger today. Instead, you know what I'm saying? Simple little things that a lot of people could do that could make the world better. But, you know, we don't bother. It's just like, you know, we've always said, and I don't want to turn this into a political show, but, you know, you have these billionaires, multi-billionaires, and they couldn't spend their lifetimes of money. They could solve the world's problems if they just spent the money on things that we need to fix. Easily.
Well, that's exactly it. If Hugh Laurie had stopped worrying about Tomorrowland and protecting Tomorrowland, he could have saved everybody. But he chose to dig them further into the grave, just like Donald Trump is doing, just like everything else is doing.
Because they only care about themselves, which is unfortunately humans are very selfish generally.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's true.
Animals. But
the less you have, the more you care. The more you have, the less you care.
Seeing these themes replay out in real life and in other movies, just in different ways. When you start to go back and look at a lot of classic literature, 1984, Fahrenheit 451, all these sci-fi shows that were predicting what's actually freaking happening. It's scary. Yep. You know, it is frightening in a lot of ways, and so I think that's my argument to the entertainment. Because sometimes, again, I want to go to a movie. And I just want to shut down and put this out for 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't want to have to worry about
something that's fun and going to make me forget about this crap that's happening in the real world. That's to me what movies are for. I know we disagree.
That's what it was for when we were young. Nowadays,
at least it was for maybe when we were young.
We're officially fuddy duddies because we're not changing with the times.
Yeah, but I think it's still applicable in the sense that that's what, when a movie is successful, that's what it tends to be. People were entertained and they liked it and they were talking about it and they were saying, "Hey,
we've done a lot of shows on this show because we're in year 5 now. A lot of movies, and we've dissected some pretty, some think pieces that we loved." But they were think pieces. And I'll point 2001 as a really great
2001 is certainly, but again, it was a box office failure.
True. Good point.
You know what I'm saying? So yes, we see the value in that movie retrospectively, but when people saw it initially, they went, "What in the hell is this?
What is this?" Yeah.
So, that's not to say that all movies, there's some great thinkers out there that turn out to be great movies. We were just talking about like Fight Club. Which is a great psychological film. There is a certain amount of thinking to it, but the way it's put together,
Midsommar. Have you guys seen Midsommar?
Oh, Midsommar, yeah, that's a really great psychological.
That movie is so subtle. It's not scary, like in the typical horror sense.
It's uncomfortable AF.
It is, and you walk away for days wondering what the F you just watched.
Yeah.
But it has a good kind of story behind it, and a good maybe not good, but a realistic message about what happens when you lose your support system, what happens when you suffer grief alone, and how easy it is to get into cult-like situations and not even realize that that's where you are. Great kind of thinking movie, but it's also a horror movie that you can shut your brain off and look at all the pretty colors.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really great point. And the Wicker Man's kind of the same way. It gets really trippy really quick. Yeah.
It can be done for certainly. We've seen it done. I mean, it's just, but I think if you ask the average moviegoer what they want in a movie, they're going to I want to be entertained for 2 hours or whatever it is. That's why I want to pay my $15 or whatever it is. I want to go sit down in a theater, shut my brain off for the most part, and just be taken on this ride. Whatever.
As a viewer, absolutely. I just disagree that as a creator, that's what you're looking for. I feel like most creators who are worth their salt,
you can only do that when you've been
beyond and make it entertaining so that it is heard.
But as a creator, you only get to that opportunity when you've made a bunch of films that you look at Spielberg. He's a great example of this. His biggest, obviously his hit claim, put him on the map certainly was Jaws. And then he did Close Encounters, and then he did E.T. and these other films, and then he does Schindler's List.
Well, I mean, it's just these big thinkers that you're talking about that we need, right? Because E.T.
But he would have never got to be able to do something like
Jaws was horrible for the environment for sharks, but like E.T., Jurassic Park, they all had messaging as well. They were just super entertaining at the same time.
You're missing my point. He would have never been able to do that film had he not had success with the straight entertainment films.
In Duel.
To do what film?
If he wouldn't have been able to do something like Schindler's List. Okay?
That's true.
Which was a great movie. Amazing movie. Mm-hmm. But he would have probably never been able to make that coming out of it if he was a nobody. My point is he had done Jaws, E.T., all these other popular, Jurassic Park.
You're missing my point. Those movies, E.T., Jurassic Park, they also have messaging. It's just not as heavy as Schindler's List.
Park, but Jurassic Park, remember, was based on a book that had that message. They didn't make that. They made the movie based on the book. Okay.
E.T. also had messaging to it.
So, well, of course. I mean, that was his point. But the point is that it wasn't, those messages were built into a film that was extremely entertaining. So if you really want to do something gritty that may not be hugely popular, now Schindler's List was actually very popular. Did do very well because he's such an amazing filmmaker, I think is part of it.
Right, but you're changing the argument because I didn't say that it was not about entertainment at all. I'm just saying that both are there.
Yeah, but you're saying
it's not just about entertainment. Was my only point.
But you're saying that the producer of the person producing the film, directing
not
the film,
producers. No, I do agree.
I meant
producers
directors.
are
I mean producing in the sense that they're the ones running the show. They're the ones deciding. The director, if you will, the writer.
The writers and directors are
their vision of the story they don't get the opportunities to tell these deeper stories without being successful in the entertainment end of it first. That's what I'm saying.
For
Because
sure.
when they do that, usually people go, "Who is this guy?" No, but no, he didn't. His movie flopped. You know, so we're not gonna pay. It's a business. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. If you want to, I mean, there's plenty of independents. You go to freaking Cannes or go to whatever the ones in Aspen there. Go see that. You'll see tons of independent films, and some of them are amazing. But they're
Absolutely.
not
I go to
profitable.
plenty film festivals.
So.
They're some of the best places to get the best no names, so to speak.
So anyway,
I mean, what's that show that came out? Kim's Convenience is a Canadian show. I don't know if you guys have seen it or heard about it.
Yeah.
But that came out of a film festival from a nobody. So like, they definitely come out with their own gems for sure.
I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen. I'm not certainly, I'm just saying in general, if
I'm
you
just trying to
want
think if
to
anybody came out the gate with a big message film. I gotta research that a little bit. I feel like maybe
that would be that would be an interesting perspective to find.
All right. We just got chastised for beating up on Alex again.
I don't who?
I don't know who this chastising
Bruce,
person
if that's
is.
you, just stop. Go be on your cruise.
It's probably Bruce.
No, he's not watching on the cruise.
Bruce, I doubt, is watching the cruise.
He sent me a cryptic message that
said
Raphael
if he is, that's a really lame cruise. That's all I'm going to say. Because the cruise got to suck if he's watching us.
Yeah, if he's watching us,
on how tired you are at that point.
That's not that good of a cruise. Or he's drunk.
Or he's really drunk. That's fair. Anyway. It is past the hour. I don't know if Roy, you were there. I don't know if you're still there. I don't know if you got anything going on or not.
No, I don't think Roy
yet. I assume you're still convalescing.
Yeah,
which
Roy
is still convalescing.
Phil has a regular week. Thursday he'll do thing. Friday night freeform, and that's about it. And he says I found a cool new progressive rock band from Greece. Okay, we'll check out your Greek music, Phil. Sure, why not? Okay, Rizzo, I think we've actually sorted out our March Madness. Can we tell?
Ooh.
We did.
Everyone?
I put this up because Roy had some,
Roy.
What Roy's going on there. So some little plug for Roy. So you can. I'll leave that up while we're discussing.
Yeah.
So since they call March Madness for the college basketball, which I do not watch any of, because I'm not into basketball in any sort of any. Yeah, it's not my sport. But they could call March Madness. So we're going to do stuff that's kind of deals with people going insane or some kind of psychological thing. So I think what we decided we're going to do Clockwork Orange.
You've got Clockwork
which
Orange
I believe
on the
Roy
list.
has done. What did we just talked about it before the show? I know Clockwork Orange was on there.
I've got The Truman Show, which is a fascinating way to drive.
The Truman Show is another one.
Yeah, and then of course we'll have our
we're off on the 12th because I actually have a medical procedure to go on that day. Nothing, just routine stuff. Don't panic. I know you guys were really panicking.
Nobody cared about my teeth.
Nobody's gonna care about mine either. So.
No one's gonna care about you either.
What else? What other choice?
Our top 10 Trek episodes dealing with madness.
Right. Oh, right. Which is also going to deal with psychological type thrill. There's some really good ones. This is really actually pretty hard. These top 10 ones are being more difficult for us to choose good.
Quite difficult. Yes.
There's a lot. There was a lot just in TOS. I didn't even think about it. We start thinking about it like, wow, TOS even.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of a crutch in TOS. Like, how are we gonna make the bad guy? I'll just make him crazy. It'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like,
But I mean, it's like out of those 7 or 8 episodes, like, wow, there's like a whole bunch that kind of deal with like somebody either losing their minds or something. It's like, wow, okay, interesting. So, but there are some really good ones throughout the series. So, hopefully, we'll do that. Probably what do we say we're gonna do that? What's the 19th?
I wrote it in for the 19th, but you know what? It could be the 19th or the 26th.
Yeah. So that's what we got coming.
But join us next week for the Truman Show.
We'll do the Truman Show next week.
Woo.
Yeah. So that's a good one. Ed Harris and why am I drawing a blank on the main guy?
Don't help him. I want to figure out one of the biggest comedians ever.
Yeah, I know. I'm just, you know who I'm talking about. So
I literally just said it.
It's just with age it's done to me. It's like
I literally
did he miss it? Really? That's hilarious.
Did I not say it out loud? Did I just think it in my head?
You did.
Jim
I heard
Carrey.
it.
Yes, I got it. Jim Carrey.
There you go.
You understand? The brain is starting to show signs of
So is mine. Don't feel bad. So is mine.
So just keep laughing it up there, 31.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, when we do things with Bill Shatner, can y'all really say anything?
When we do stuff with Bill Shatner, Bill Sharp is attack.
Yeah.
That's my point.
He's sharper than I am.
And he's not your age, sweetheart.
I know.
I mean, you can't control that. How your mental acuity is
example that proves the rule that, you know what I'm saying? He's like he's not normal for a 9-year-old. No,
I'll make sure to tell him next time that you said on the podcast you're just not normal.
It's amazing how it's amazing. I've never met anybody of that age that's that ambulatory, sharp, well-spoken. I mean, he's just there. I mean, it's a freak of nature. It really is. So,
in the best possible ways.
In the best possible way. Absolutely. The best possible way. So, all right. On that note, thanks, Alex, for coming and for the suggestion. We always like to get suggestions from the audience. So if you guys do have films that you want us to do, we're always taking under advisement. Because we're always looking for ideas. So thank you for that. And
I was going to say with Scream 7 coming out very soon, I'm super down to do Scream on Halloween if y'all want.
Well, we got a few months for that. So, I'm just going to make fun of the garage scene.
There's a lot to make fun of.
It's good to make fun of. I mean, there's a reason the Scream franchise birthed the Scary Movie franchise. Like, there's lots to make fun of.
That's true. We'll see. We'll. I'll tell you what. When we get to October, we'll at least do it. We'll do Scream at
more like in August.
I will make that promise when we get. But let's not even. We're not even. There's still snow on the ground from this. Yeah. I'm not ready to think about it.
We're not ready for next fall. We're barely surviving this fall.
Fair.
All right. On that note, we will say good night. Live long and prosper. We'll see you next week. Take care. Good night, folks, and may the 4th be with you always.